ready to get started? All right, give us just a few minutes and we will get rolling. Thank you again for being here at Norfolk State University.
Black Star Network is East.
Hold no punch
a real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Folks, today's Friday, April 10th, 2026, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. We're here on the campus of Norfolk State University. Glad to be here for our second town hall, focusing on the critical election taking place in this state on April 21st. Early voting is taking place right now that will change the congressional maps. This election could very well determine political power in November, which party controls the House, and also will determine Black political power. So we've got a great lineup of folks who are going to be on the show. Returning, of course, will be Senators Tim Kaine, Mark Warner, also Virginia House Speaker Don Scott, and of course we have the quiet, demure Louise Lucas, who is going to be on the show as well. And we'll also show you some of the Black Party happening here in Norfolk State. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling.
Second town hall. So clearly, Norfolk State was paying attention last night. So we were, of course, at Virginia State University. And I said, all right, Norfolk, Virginia State was first. Y'all got to show up and show out. And so y'all definitely have done that. Glad to see everybody here in the house. It has been quite a busy month. Early voting is taking place right now in Virginia to change their congressional maps. Right now, there are 11 congressional districts in Virginia, and this map will be 10-1 that very well could favor Democrats. Why is this being done? Because Donald Trump and Republicans have focused on having mid-decade gerrymandering. Now, normally what happens after the census is taken, legislatures across the country will redraw their congressional maps the following year. Last time this happened in Virginia was in 2021. But Republicans moved forward to change the maps in the middle of the decade. It first started in 2003 in my home state of Texas, when Tom DeLay forced a change of the map that wiped out white Democrats in the state. And so what then happened last year, Donald Trump ordered the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, to get him 5 districts. They did so, wiping out 2 black congressional districts in Texas. Then California responded to what took place in Texas. Then Republicans in Missouri wiped out the district of Emanuel Cleaver, member of the Congressional Black Caucus. Then they wiped out the North Carolina district of Congressman Don Davis there. as well. And remember, in 2022, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis wiped out a black district in northern Florida, and the Supreme Court in Florida reaffirmed him actually doing that. He did that over the objection of the Republican legislature. And so this would temporarily allow Democrat-led legislature to change the maps in order to, as they say, have fair representation. Now, folks who oppose have been yelling, screaming, and hollering. You see them on social media. I've been going back and forth with several of them saying how gross and unfair this is. But none of them said it was gross and unfair when Texas did it, when Missouri did it, when North Carolina did it, when Florida did it. And then they were angry in Kansas when they chose not to do it, and Indiana when the state Senate voted not to do it as well. And so what folks have to recognize is that when you look at what we call reapportionment or redistricting, it has national implications. Whichever party gets 218 wins in November, they will control the House. Right now, Republicans control the House. That's why Louisiana's Mike Johnson is the Speaker. If Democrats win the House in November, it's likely they will elect New York Congressman Hakeem Jeffries to be the first black Speaker of the House in American history. As one of the things that we've also made perfectly clear is that the impact of what happens in November will have dramatic impact when it comes to African Americans. Now, right now, Democrats are in the minority. There are 4 black Republicans who are in the House. All of them either ran for other offices, so come November, there'll be no black Republicans unless they get elected in November. So when you look at black representation, it's on the Democratic side. You have 6 to 7 African Americans who will be chairing committees. One of them will be talking as well is Congressman Bobby Scott of Virginia. Then, of course, you may have upwards of 30 CBC members being chairing of subcommittees. When you control the legislation, then you are able to determine what moves forward and what does not. You can ask Glenn Youngkin that when Louise Lucas said, "We ain't building your stadium." So one of the things that we want to do with this show is not just talk about voting yes, but also get folk to understand how politics is connected, how the dots are connected. When you talk about what you need in your neighborhood, in your community, in your city, in your state, and how who represents you in Congress makes a difference. We'll be breaking that whole thing down. So look forward to a great conversation. We're going to start. We're here on the college campus a little bit earlier. I dropped by the block party just to see what was going on. And so, and for folk who don't know, y'all know I'm always dancing, so I can still step. My stuff works. So let's be real clear. I ain't got a problem going down, coming right back up. No pause, no breaks, no nothing. So I'm going to show some video a little bit later of us going through as they were having a great time. But we're going to start with somebody who at 19 years old is not at the block party, is actually sitting with us right now. So I want to bring up our first guest, someone who new to politics, but at 19 years old, our first guest, Cameron Drew, beat the conservative incumbent Kenneth Bell, who was also a civics teacher, by 10 votes, y'all. 10 votes. I ain't. Hold up. Go back. See, y'all, he's so new, he don't understand how this works, okay? So you're supposed to go back down the steps and explain to you how this is done. You got to wait to be called up. He won the election by 10 votes in November, and we always talking about we need more younger folks involved. Well, he accepted that call. Put your hands together for Delegate Cameron Drew. Hey, grab the mic. Appreciate it. Grab the mic. There you go. See, you got to get the right walk up, Don. All right. First and foremost, why'd you decide to run? I mean, what you doing right now? Are you at a job? You in school?
Yes, sir.
Are we on?
Are we testing? Yes, sir. But I first got to thank you for one being here, but also for all you do for inspiring us young black boys and girls. I mean, you're a true inspiration. Yes, you showed me that we can own, we can dream, and we can do many, many bigger things. But I also have to correct you. I'm actually not a delegate, not yet.
Okay.
I'm Supervisor Cameron Drew.
Supervisor Cameron
Yes,
Drew.
sir.
All right, well, they ain't had that right in the script, but it's all good. You elected to something. So first and foremost, why did you decide to run?
Yes, sir. I decided to run because I knew within my county there was a large age gap within my county. Our median age range within that county was 50.7. That told me our youth was not staying within our county. And part of seeing that was because our youth didn't always feel that they were represented, they had a voice, or their ideas were always heard. So I sought out to step up to show our youth that they didn't sometimes have someone advocating for them. They always had someone advocating for them.
Now, the folk tell you must be out your mind thinking you're going to sit here and run and win.
Oh, yes, most definitely. I know there's people who insulted me. There's people who comment on Facebook and be like, why is this 19-year-old running for office? He don't even know how to write a check. And I'm sorry I don't have my...
First of all, none of us use checks. I take that back. There's some people who watch the show, they still send money orders and checks. But 98% of the people use PayPal, Venmo, Zelle to support our show.
You're right.
So yeah, they might want to use another one. So they were making jokes, they were laughing, and you said, all right, I'm going to show y'all what's up.
Exactly. And I sought out for this office. I mean, I stepped up. I knew that people were doubting me, and I knew I had to show them. Well, not show them, I knew I had to prove to them that I was ready for this office. So I was out knocking doors. I was working for another campaign. I was also coming back home and work for my own campaign. I was out with the voters.
Was the other campaign paying you? So that was the check? So
there you go. There you go.
You got paid by them, but you were free on yours. So you're like, I got to pay some bills.
Yes, sir. But I was coming back home to community events. I was in my homecoming parade. I was just letting people know that I was serious about this. That I am 19, but I was a 19-year-old who was ready to make change within our county.
You still in school?
Yes, sir.
Where?
Go to Virginia Peninsula Community College.
All right. So how do you juxtapose your college work and your supervisor work?
It's all about
which
time.
Which takes precedent?
The college work, and they both take precedent. They're both at the top of my list. It's all about time management. Understanding that I knew I was seeking this role. I knew it would be challenging and rigorous sometimes, but I knew that in stepping up in this role, I needed people around me who would support me and uplift me. And I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends. My faith has helped me down within all the work that I do, but I'm also my biggest supporter is actually my advisor. She's here. And when I say that, people be like, oh, he's 19. Well, I'm actually 20 now, but he's 19 and 20 and has an advisor. Yes, I do have an advisor because she is who helped me keep me grounded and help me with my works.
Well, first of all, you're going to say you got an advisor. You're supposed to shout out your advisor.
My advisor is, she back there, Mr. Skylar Jefferson.
All right. Y'all put the camera on her. There you go. All right. There you go. All right. So how many folks do you govern? How large is the budget?
So our budget is about $62 million. We're a small county, but only 6,500 people. I represent about 1,180 people within my district. And I won my vote by only 8 votes. I think that's truly important. Not only that, yes, I beat my high school government teacher who taught me a lot about government. Yeah, that's important. But
hold on, stop. Wait a minute, hold on. The person you beat was your high school government teacher?
Yes.
So, did you like him when you were in class?
Yeah, I actually did like him. We actually did many trips up to the state capitol. He's one of my biggest supporters, and me getting into politics. So had no hard feelings for him. We had no hard feelings. I mean, our campaign was a campaign of absolutely positivity. I know that's uncertain sometimes. But.
So when he called to concede, how was that phone call?
Oh, it was like a 10, 15-minute phone call. I mean, I was at another celebration party as well, but I was having a good time there.
You sure like going to other people's stuff.
Look, I was getting paid. I had to collect my check first.
There you go, see? Priorities. You got priorities. And so, okay, so that's wild. Now, I had a few run-ins with teachers. Well, actually, I had a number of run-ins with teachers. So I can only imagine. I'm just letting you know, I would have been a little different response, but I beat my government teacher. I'm just letting you know, it would have been a whole different response. Because we would often clash when it came to public policy. But, you know, that's how it was. That's how it always was. So you see you won by 8 votes. And I am constantly trying to explain to people how every vote absolutely matters. And even with this election taking place right now, getting people to understand that you can't sit out. Again, your race is a perfect example. If 9 folk chose to sit out, those 8 chose to sit out, you're not sitting here. And so how do you convey, because when you look at the numbers, the people that vote the most, y'all clap if y'all in this group are 65 plus, clap. So if you are 54 to 64, clap. If you are 44 to 53, clap. All right, so if you are 35 to 43, clap. All right, so if you are 18 to 33, clap. Now, when we look at numbers, the group that votes the most, 65 plus, they turn out. They gonna vote. The people who vote the least are 18-29. And when I hear folks at that demo, you being 20, folks say, I'm sick of these old folks who are telling us what to do. I'm like, well, they show the hell up. Politics is about participation. So if you don't show up, you're not going to be represented. And so how do you convey to folk in that hard demographic, 18-29, why they have to be engaged in politics, whether it's local, state, national?
I think it starts with us understanding how do we want to see what change we want to see, but how do we want to live our lives? We see now day to day prices are going up. I mean, gas is expensive. I drive a Honda Accord, and I was paying $35. Now I'm paying $42, $50 to put gas in my car. And I think also
you barely got a license too.
I've had my license for almost 3 years now. Okay.
Like I said, you barely got a license.
But also understanding that as young people, we're a generation that we're sometimes selfish. So when we go out to vote, we have to vote for our best interest sometimes, not always voting on what party lines are or what our parents say.
But how do you also explain to them also not to get wrapped up in personality? Because I've had a lot of young folks who say, well, I'm not feeling that person. And I keep saying, listen, one of them are going to win. So you can sit here and say, I'm not feeling them. I said, but it's not always about how you feel. It's about how you're going to feel after they win.
Yeah, and I think it's just them understanding that, I mean, it's like you said, it's not about how you feel. It's about what they intend to do. And sometimes you got to look past the feelings and what they say on the outside and look what they plan to do on the inside with their policies. I mean, I think that's truly important and important for us young people to understand that it's not always about how we feel and how we expect our electeds to do. We must hold them accountable, and we must ensure that when they get in office, no matter how we feel, how they feel, that they are doing the work that they promised that they would do.
Last question for this election here. How have you been communicating and traveling and talking about how folks should vote in this election?
Yes, sir. So I've actually been door knocking. You see, door knocking don't stop, even when you become elected. I thoroughly enjoy it. I actually be door knocking all next week, telling people that, hey, you need to get out and vote, not just on April 21st. We need to vote early. And I mean, if I encounter some people that's going to vote, no, I may tell them, hey, you go vote April 22nd and see what you're going to get. I may not get nothing, but, hey, at least you tried to vote.
All right, April 22nd going to be a little too late.
Exactly. All
right, then. Well, Cameron Drew, Supervisor Cameron Drew, we certainly appreciate it. Good luck in school. First of all, when you going to finish?
I'll be done in May, actually, and I'm headed over to my 4th year.
And what's that going to be?
Virginia State University.
Okay. And you'll be, look, he's back to Hale State. And you'll be majoring in what?
business administration with plans to minor in political science.
Business administration, minor in political science. Gotcha. You plan on pledging? That's the only answer.
Yes, sir.
Just letting you know that's the only answer. All right. So if so, you plan on that, you can put your little mega hand down. And, you know his grade point average is too high to pledge Omega.
That was a good one.
Absolutely. They don't want none of that. And Henry work on my staff, he don't want none either. And little Terrell here, Sigma, he really don't want none. So they know how I roll. We look forward to that, Cameron. Congratulations. And we appreciate it. Good luck. And we can't wait to see what you aspire to higher office.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. All right. Folks, going to a break. We come back. State Senator Louise Lucas will join us on stage. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here in the Black Star Network. Cameron is going to drop the mic. Back in a moment.
Why does it feel like we're going backward? Voting rights under attack, schools stripped of funding, Black history erased. This is the Trump MAGA agenda. They want to take us back. They are redrawing congressional lines in states across the country, deciding who gets power and who gets silenced. We see what this is, a power grab. Virginians won't be fooled. Show up, vote, take back our power. It's a temporary measure that gives the people, not politicians, the final say. Vote yes by April 21st.
This is Bill Duke, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
Folks, welcome back to Norfolk State University. We'll continue our conversation. Joining us right now is State Senator of Virginia, Mamie Locke. Put y'all hands together. There you go.
You know I'm an old woman.
Huh?
You know I'm an old woman. I can't get up in the
You can get in the chair. That's why we got a step. Put your foot right there. There you go. See, that ain't that hard. How she gonna come out here and start? You know I'm an old woman. I ain't trying. We go from 20-year-old hug on, you know, I'm an old woman, I can't step up. First of all, before we came out, y'all, we took a picture outside our Roro mobile, and so it was Senator Locke, Congressman Bobby Scott, myself. She's like, you know, we got an AK between these two alphas. I'm like, how you come out here dressed like a Delta? all that red on. That would not have been what I said. So it was like, okay, all right, then.
We look good in all colors.
Oh, hold on, that's what we say. I always keep telling y'all it's Alpha and Divine 8, but I'm just saying. All right, let's talk about. I want to talk about power and when you're in the majority, how when you have power, how you have to use power. I set it up talking about what Republicans have done across the country. And the reality is, if you look at many of these red states, you look at supermajority in Florida, in Texas, in Alabama, in Mississippi, in Tennessee, and you look at Arkansas and North Carolina, South Carolina, take your pick, they exercise power using power. I have always said that Democrats like to play nice, like to go along to get along. How can we be fair? And if somebody is in a fight and they pick up a 2x4, I'm going to pick up a crowbar I'm not going to sit here and say that's not right, that's not fair when you get clubbed upside the head. And the reality is, how I look at this referendum, this is Virginia Democrats saying, okay, y'all want to roll? Let's roll. You had power, you used power. We have power, we're going to use power.
Exactly. I'm right there. I have been saying with, Senator Lucas is my seatmate. Okay, so I roll with my seatmate. And we were in...
Well, you better. She'll probably put you on Twitter.
She's always put me on blast. But we were in Boston last summer, and we were hanging with the Texas delegation, and they had a sign that said, Texas now, your state is next. And we went with them to protest and essentially said, we know that we're next, so we need to roll now. So we started saying back in August of last year, we know that Virginia is going to be on the chopping block, so we need to roll now. We have the power. We have the majority in the Senate. We know that we're going to get the majority in the House. So let's start talking about redistricting right now. And they started it. I'm not going to say what she said, but we can finish it. We can finish it. And we have the majority. We're going to have the trifecta. We know that we're going to have the trifecta come November. So let's get this party started.
So for folks who are watching and listening who don't know, just give folks a sense of what having the trifecta, what you've already accomplished in a short period of time.
There were several pieces of legislation that we have been putting in year after year after year since 2021, 22 that have been vetoed by the previous governor, Youngkin. And so we knew that by having that trifecta, having the majority in the House, having the majority in the Senate, that we could now get this legislation done. Minimum wage. We passed that. It has been signed. Paid family leave. Put it in again. It has been signed. Collective bargaining on the governor's desk now. A bill that I've been working on for years dealing with folks' unconscious bias in medical care. It has been signed. 3 constitutional amendments, not the one that you voted on the 21st. 3 other constitutional amendments dealing with marriage equality, reproductive health care, and a constitutional right to vote. Those 3 amendments are on the ballot.
In November?
In November. Yeah. We've been working on those for years. They will be on the ballot in November. We have been working on legislation that have been vetoed for several years in a row. We've been able to get all of that legislation out, passed, signed by the governor. So dealing with all kinds of issues with, he pulled us out of Reggie, which deals with environmental issues. We got us back in with that. So we've done a lot in this last session alone.
See, the reason I wanted you to lay those things out, because what I often hear when I travel this country, folks say, Democrats make promises, but then when they have the power, say why we can't do it. Then when you watch the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon in chief, I don't call him president. That's forbidden even on my show. You can't put that in the script. Right. He gets in, and there's no such thing as a line. He will do whatever he wants to do. But that is called, it's abuse of power, but it's also the exercise of power.
Right.
And when people say, I'm checking out, it's because they say, wait a minute, I voted for you, but you still didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's important to lay those things out, because that's called delivering on what folks said we're going to do. If you give us the power, we're going to do this. So you're actually delivering on, by giving us the power, we actually did it.
Yes, we said we were running on affordability. We made those promises, and we kept those promises. And as you mentioned, the convicted felon, one of the things that was said on the constitutional amendment about restoration of rights was I was accused of allowing people to vote who had not paid their fines and fees. And I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, that's a poll tax on individuals. I said, and how are you going to come at me on talking about individuals who are convicted felons, paid their debts to society, getting out of jail when you got a convicted felon sitting in the White House? So I'm sorry. You know, he can't vote in Virginia, you know, unless we pass this constitutional amendment. So let's pass the amendment so he can come to Virginia and vote.
And again, when we talk about what happened when you have power, for instance, when Amendment 4 passed in Florida, that restored the voting rights of formerly incarcerated upwards of 1.4 million people, what Republicans in Florida then did was they then took it to court and said, oh, no. We know they voted for it, and it passed. Big numbers in Florida, but they then said, no, you have to your point, no, all fines, penalties must all be paid. And then the Florida Supreme Court, appointed by Republican governors, affirm what they actually had to say. So that was their way of still trying to stop those folks from being able to vote. Now, folks like the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition raising money to pay many of those fines off. But those are the ways that Republicans in this country, in numerous states, have tried to deny people the right to vote by coming up with every possible way to prevent them from voting, whether we're talking about formerly incarcerated, whether we're talking about banning ballot drop boxes, whether we're talking about ending or curtailing early voting, Sunday voting, you name it. And the same thing, we still see it happening. And if you do not use the law and to change those laws, then we're going to see exactly what's going on. Which is also why many states are calling for a state voting rights act.
Which we have.
Explain for people, again, who don't understand that.
Yeah, Virginia actually passed a voting rights act for the Commonwealth of Virginia back in 2021, I believe, or 2020, when we had a trifecta before. Because we kind of saw some stuff coming. There had already been an erosion of the Voting Rights Act with eliminating Section 5. And we saw some other stuff coming from the Supreme Court that is controlled by Donald Trump. So since we saw that coming, we needed our own Voting Rights Act, so we passed our own Voting Rights Act that protects the rights of voters.
Absolutely. Last question I have for you. We have some really destructive mailers that are going out using KKK themes, and they're trying to steal our right to vote. It's meant to sow seeds of confusion. And a lot of older voters are, hey, you know, what's going on? What does this mean? Talk about why everybody has to be fully engaged in talking to as many folks as possible to explain to them the difference. Because what they also are doing is, first of all, we were the blackface dude who was over the initiative. I guess he used to be in the House of Delegates, I guess so. Yes. He initially said yes to coming on my show. Then I think he realized what he said yes to. And called back and was like, no, I can't do that.
He did the right thing.
Yeah. Look, he can come on. I'll be happy to ask him a few questions. But what they're doing is they are purposely trying to use the images of KKK, denying folks the right to vote, to get them to vote no against this referendum.
Correct.
Speak to that.
Okay, so when those flyers first started coming out, I have to give our community credit. A lot of people started calling around saying, what is this? And asking the right questions before they actually voted so that it could be explained. And I have to give our pastors credit. They allowed us to come into the churches to start speaking about those flyers. So I actually would take the flyer with me into the church and would hold up that flyer against the real flyer and said, you've always heard about fake news. This is fake news. Okay, and what do you do with fake news? You rip it and you throw it in the trash. You know, and I said, and it has President Obama's picture on it. Okay, now help me understand, in what world does Barack Obama come on television in an ad and tell you to vote yes. Then he sends you a mailer and tells you to vote no. Okay, now, what kind of black sense does that make?
That don't make black sense, white sense.
That don't make no kind of sense. You know, Barack is not telling you to vote no. He is telling you to vote yes because this is making sense, to vote yes, to level the playing field, and to make sure that you have people sitting in Congress like Robert C. Bobby Scott, who's my congressman, and making decisions that are meaningful for you. That these folks are not making decisions that are helpful to you as a citizen.
All right, then. Y'all put your hands together with Senator Mamie Locke.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Don't help you on down here before you start telling me I'm an old woman, I can't get off this chair. Next up, y'all, let's bring up our next guest, Senator Tim Kaine. Come on. Let's go. Put y'all hands together for the senator. See Cameron? Where's Cameron? Where's Cameron? See Cameron? See, he waited. He was like, hold up. You got to wait to bring me up. See, there you go. There you go. Grab the microphone right there. Glad to have
Norfolk
you back.
State.
We're
see you guys.
We're chatting with you last night and talking about many of these issues. But I want to start with this, just like I was talking with Senator Locke about what they were able to accomplish. Yep. Same thing. The reason we have the Affordable Care Act is because Obama was president, Democrats controlled the House, Democrats controlled the Senate, and even when you had some Democrats in the Senate who were standing in the way, then where everybody thought after the election of Scott Brown in Massachusetts it was all doomed, then it was, no. Let's figure out how we will use legislative power to actually get this done through the reconciliation process. The point there is when you have the power, you have to be able to use it in order to represent the people.
Absolutely. I was the chairman of the Democratic National Committee then when President Obama's first term. And he told me, go around the country and talk up the Affordable Care Act. I've never given so many speeches about a single topic as that time when the ACA was being passed. And as you know, it passed by the barest of majorities because we used the power that we had. And then the Republican Party has used the power they had. In 2017, they decided, after President Trump was elected, their main goal in the first year of the Trump administration was repeal Obamacare. They didn't do a budget the first year. They didn't do all kinds of stuff. They queued up the repeal of the Affordable Care Act, and they fell short in the Senate by a single vote. Every Democrat stood up for the ACA. 3 Republicans joined us, and we saved it by 1 vote. And then last summer, the House passed a reconciliation bill that they wouldn't have been able to pass, except for the stolen North Carolina seats. 3 seats stolen in North Carolina, that was the margin. They passed a reconciliation bill, giving tax breaks to the billionaires and taking away Medicaid from everyday Americans, tons in Virginia, taking away SNAP benefits from 80,000 Virginians. And the only reason they were able to do that was because they stole the 3 seats in North Carolina. And now they're complaining that we are trying to do something in Virginia to level the playing field. There's one difference between what Virginia is doing and what North Carolina did. Virginia, we're letting the voters vote on it.
Well, first of all, North Carolina.
Yeah.
North Carolina, done with the legislature.
Yep.
Florida, done with the legislature. Texas, done with the legislature.
Yep.
Missouri, done with the legislature. And then in Kansas, the Republicans said we don't have enough votes for it. And the Senate in Indiana stopped it. So when they complain about California, what they did in Virginia, those are the only 2 that went to the folks, the voters, the people of the state.
Yep, and I give credit to my state legislators. You've heard from Senator Locke, Senator Lucas is here, and others. My speaker, Don Scott, they said, look, this is important to do, but it's not so important that we're going to do it in a back room, in a smoke-filled back room, and not let the voters vote on it. Our voters get to pick. Our voters get to pick.
Well, that's funny because there's a conservative, Guy Benson. This was so funny. He was complaining about what's happening in Virginia. Neera Tanden had said how he conveniently left out Ohio, Missouri, and Florida. And then he goes, ours cut a deal with D's on non-maximalist redistricting. Then he said, Missouri, adding one R seat in a Trump plus 18 state. And I responded, I said, well, so now you're saying that because of the plus 18 state, let's change this one congressional district. I said, well, if that's, I said, oh, no, I said, that's fine. If that's the argument that you want to use, that it is a plus 18 Trump state, well, you can't complain if a state that didn't vote for him changed it to benefit them. He hasn't responded to that tweet.
Well, these guys cannot. They can't take a punch, and sadly, and Roland, you've been talking about this for years. They're not used to the Dems fighting back, and so they're going to be used to it now.
Yeah,
and they got to toughen up.
What'd you say? I was messing. What was your phrase? Pluribus. What was your?
So he and I have different versions of the motto. I was pointing out that Virginia picked a motto. It's on this flag right behind me. Can I do a visual?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You guys see this, right? We voted for this on July 5, 1776. Most states have changed their flag and changed their motto. We haven't. It's a woman representing virtue standing over a deposed monarch representing tyranny. And our motto is sic semper tyrannis. Thus be it always the tyrant.
Sic semper tyrannis.
He called it.
I told him my motto is hashtag team whip that
ass. And that is the Latin. That is the Latin. My Latin is translation of his motto.
There you go.
Although I think you would say it tyrannus, not tyrannus.
Right. I thought that was, temper. I thought it was a mattress he was talking about.
He called it sic semper Tempur-Pedic.
I just told him point blank. I said, I'm going to cut to the chase. I said, that's how I look at it. Because, well, again, we laugh about it, we joke about it, but I really need people to understand that what we are witnessing right now in this country is something that this generation of Americans has never witnessed.
Yep.
We talk about Nixon being corrupt. Nixon looks like a choir boy.
Yeah. Boy Scout.
Compared to what's happening with Donald Trump.
And
we've never had, and this is where they love talking about the founders, and how the founders put in, and I remember Vice President Kamala Harris talking about this here, President Biden, they kept talking about guardrails. Mm-hmm. But the guardrails were, you would even have a party of that particular, of that person, who would say, no, that's enough.
Yep.
What we have now literally is a party that says, do whatever you want, we're scared to death of you, and we're going to let you run amok. And you simply cannot allow that to continue and not fight back with everything that you have.
Just one example, right here in Hampton Roads. I mean, this is like the center of the American Navy. We got all these folks who have family in the military deployed on the Ford that is now setting all the records for the extended deployment. They were supposed to be home for Christmas. They got steamed to the Venezuela, then steamed over to the Middle East. And you have a president who's waging war, hadn't even come to Congress for a vote. No congressional authorization, no support from allies, no support from the American public, no plan, no rationale. 13 troops lost already, including Virginians, hundreds injured. And Abraham Lincoln was once asked when he was in Congress, hey, why did the founders say you can't go to war without Congress? And he wrote a letter back to the guy that wrote him, and he said, the Constitution set it up that way because the most kingly of all oppressions is to take a country to war without seeking the approval of the legislative branch. Kings do this all the time, and they impoverish and injure their people to change their minds or change the subject from something else. It is the most kingly of all oppressions. It's tyranny to allow a president to take us to war, especially an unwise war like this one, without having a debate and vote.
And the reason he demanded that Texas get him 5 seats, because he said to his own party, if we do not keep the House, they're going to impeach me. And he's already set a record being impeached twice, does not want to be impeached a third time. And so this is what this election is about. It literally is about how do you put restraints as best that you can on the madness that is coming out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Right. It is about finally releasing the Epstein files. It is about forcing. I was glad to hear that the First Lady yesterday said that we should have a hearing with all the Epstein victims. I mean, I think that's one thing we should all get on board with.
But here's the problem. By Republicans controlling the House and the Senate, they control whether you call the hearings. So if the House changes in November, come January, and if the Senate changes, now you then have the power. Senator Warner will be head of the Intelligence Committee. Senator Scott will be head of
Education
and Labor. And when you are when the majority, you now get to set the agenda.
Right. Can I tell you, this should make everybody's blood boil. It makes my blood boil. Do you know what we haven't been allowed to have a hearing about yet? The war in Iran. I mean, we have been at war for 40-plus days, and there's not been a single public hearing about it in either house because the Republican chairs of the Armed Services Committees, they don't want to put the witnesses on stage in public and have them answer questions. So they bring us into the classified setting, and they give us classified information that we're not allowed to reveal. And so when I meet parents here in Hampton Roads and they want to ask about whether their kid will be deployed or what is the goal here or what is the plan, even when I know the answer, Roland, I am not allowed to answer the question because they will only give us this information in classified. As soon as the Democrats have a majority in either house, all of these things that they're trying to put a gag rule on, we can get out in the open.
This is going to be an extremely tight election. And what do you say? It's 11 days, but early voting is right now. What do you say to someone who's listening, someone who is watching, one who's either already voted or who hasn't, what every person has to be doing to drive folk to vote yes when it comes to this referendum? What do you want them to do?
So first, tomorrow is the first of 2 Super Saturdays. So huge effort tomorrow, the 11th, and then Saturday, the 18th, to get people. About 30 new voting sites are up all over Virginia. If you have any questions about how to vote, iwillvote.com. You go right there, it will tell you how to do it. This is so very, very important because these cuts to Medicaid. I was in Farmville, so you know Farmville in Southern Virginia last week. The labor and delivery ward at the hospital in Farmville closed down at the end of December because of the Medicaid cuts that the Republicans were able to make because they stole the 3 seats in North Carolina. Just those 3 seats. You can't have a baby at the hospital in Farmville. You got to drive a long way to get to Lynchburg. And so 3 clinics in the Shenandoah Valley have closed. 80,000 Virginians have lost SNAP benefits already. So share that story. Go out and vote tomorrow if you haven't at these sites all over Virginia. The good news is, again, credit to the state legislature, they have given you 4 ways to vote. You can vote by mail. You can get a ballot by mail and return it in person. You can go vote early in person, like tomorrow, or you can go vote on Election Day. Those 4 ways to vote maximize the convenience, and there's no excuse not to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Senator Tim Kaine.
All right, thanks,
Roland.
Roland.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate this.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
And I think we'll do this. I think we'll land it.
Going to a break. We come back. We are going to have to, it's going to be hard trying to get her to talk. So our next guest is Senator Louise Lucas. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
All right, thanks again.
I appreciate it.
It's going to be good.
Virginia, we are counting on you. Republicans want to steal enough seats in Congress to rig the next election and wield unchecked power for 2 more years. But you can stop them by voting yes by April 21st. Help put our elections back on a level playing field and let voters decide, not politicians. This is the responsible thing to do. Help us chart a better path forward, Virginia. Vote yes by April 21st.
This is Bill Duke, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
State University, glad to be here. We are, of course, of this referendum that will take place on April 21st. Voting takes place right now. And somebody who was driving this, pushing this, even when other people said, you've got to be outside your mind and doing it. She joins us right now. She comes to us a fierce fighter. And I can tell you this here, other state legislators who said, if we had a Louise Lucas in our state, it would be off the chain. But just put y'all for State Senator Louise Lucas. There you go. All right, hand your microphone here.
I'm 10 years older than Senator Locke, but I didn't have any problem getting in this chair.
and then the Delta comes out here in this green.
Oh, but let me explain.
Go ahead.
Look, I spent 8 years on this campus getting my undergrad and graduate degree. So the green is for Norfolk State University. Behold! All right, let's go.
See it? I thought you about to say you were because you're a Lynx.
That too.
John, please, listen. My wife a Delta and a Lynx. Y'all meet too much.
Yeah, we do.
Y'all meet. I told both y'all national presidents, y'all meet too much. and somebody said, Roland, why you work so hard? I said, easy to pay for all that Delta and Lynx stuff. Lord have mercy. Anytime my American Express ping, I'm like, I know what that's going to.
Well, did you see I was down there sitting between 2 of my former governors, Tim Kaine and Mark Warner? They wanted me to make sure that I tell everybody, don't blame us for those maps. Louise drew those maps.
Let's talk about it, because when you were champion 10-1, 10-1, 10-1, that was Democrats who were saying, Senator Lucas, we shouldn't be doing that. I mean, yeah, they were going at you.
Well, look, you know what? And even though I'm telling you, we wouldn't have a stronger supporter of this map right now than Speaker Don Scott, but I was in Boston with Senator Locke when we went down to the State House when the Texas delegation had come to Boston because they needed to get away from Texas. And I was on TV, and Congressman Scott didn't call me, Speaker Don Scott called me and said, lady, what are you doing? And I said, I'm joining the Texas delegation. They said, somebody else's state is going to be next, and it might be Virginia. I said, so let's get in this fight, because I wake up every morning with a fight in my heart.
So you telling me the Speaker of the House of Virginia, who's from Texas, who's from Texas, who went to a little smaller school, Sterling High School. First of all, they claim to be the rival of my high school. He know they are not a rival of Jack Yates High School. He know better. So he said, what are you doing?
He saw me on TV. He was in Boston, and he said, lady, what are you doing? And I said, I'm joining the fight. He said, but how do you know Virginia's going to be next? We don't have to be. They're coming forward, so we're going to just go in and start drawing our maps. And he was like, can you chill for a few days?
And you said no.
I told him yes. I chilled for 7 days about that.
And on the 8th day, the sun came out.
And when we got back to Virginia, the first thing I did was I took to Twitter. As a matter of fact, I didn't wait to get back to Virginia. I started in Boston. And I started talking about, okay, in order for us to try to level the playing field, the orange man has asked for 5 seats. And guess what? If we go back to Virginia and we go to a 10-1, hey, that's part of the battle won right there.
And again, there were people who were saying, no,
my God.
Stop it, don't do it.
I had people calling me and said, well, can we do 8-3? And I said, why are we going to spend the time, effort, energy, and all that damn money for an 8-3?
Because I know you probably were like, really, I want 11-0. But you said, I'll give up 1.
And then the next proposal was for a 9-2. And I said, that won't do either. And I held out for the 10-1.
So I want to stay there because I spent a lot of time really trying to walk the audience through when you have power, how you use it. But this is also why when you elect someone, you want to elect someone who is going to be a fighter, who is going to be a fight. And if you do not have the power, then you can't do what you just described. Exactly. Then if you don't have the power when you're in the majority, then you can't hold out to get what you want.
Let me tell you something. We have the kind of power in the Virginia legislature now that we are not likely to ever have again with Speaker Don Scott and with me as Chair of Finance and Appropriation and President Pro Tem, Luke Turian as Chair of House Appropriation. How long do you think it will take, if you look at just the line of succession, for us to line up like that again? So we have an inescapable responsibility to do all we can for as long as we can, for as long as we have this power.
And again, I want to juxtapose that with what Republicans are doing in D.C. Project 2025 was all about if it lines up and then we control the Supreme Court, we control the House, we control the Senate and the White House, we can run the table. That's what that was. And they told everybody, this is what we're going to do if we actually win. And there are people who said, well, I don't think it's really going to happen. Now those same folks are saying, I can't believe it happened. I'm like, what the hell? They told you what they were going to do.
It was right out in plain sight. And a lot of us did rallies and we did town halls. We did everything we could to try to get people to understand what Project 2025 was going to mean for them. And they listened, but I'm not sure they all understood it. But I tell you what, a lot of folks understand it now, which is the reason why you have an opportunity now to reverse some of this crap. I'm going to be cool here. I'm not going to use my shipyard language in here tonight.
Okay, first of all, you gotta remember the show is
Congressman Scott is sitting there on that front row looking at me. He gave me a very nice, can we applaud Senator Lucas? She didn't use any shipyard language tonight. I'll try to get through the night without doing it.
First of all, you gotta understand, first of all, I own this shit. So let me be real clear. That I don't have a boss.
I'll tell you what.
So the show's called Unfiltered for a reason.
I'm unfiltered.
No, really? No. I would have never said that.
But I just want to say to you, we have an opportunity here in Virginia to set the tone for the nation. And that's the reason why each of us have gone out and we've done individual videos, we've done group videos, we put out mailers, and some of us are even putting out door knockers. We're doing signs and social media. We're doing everything we know to do to make sure people know not to guess, vote yes. Let's hear it. Don't guess, vote yes.
I guess they got it.
They got it.
I guess they got it.
And we want everybody to go and get somebody else and take them to the polls early.
Well, see, that's the thing that Bishop William Barber and I were talking about this year. And what often happens when we talk about voting, we're talking about it in the macro. Man, if we could get everybody to turn out. I said, well, first of all, you can't just hope and wish and pray they turn out. You've got to put some work. You've got to organize and mobilize. And when I travel this country and people say, well, what can I do? I said, I'm not going to ask you to go start an organization. I'm not going to ask you to try to organize a town hall. I said, all I need for you to do is you as an individual to go ask 5 people. But then I want you to ask those 5 people to ask 5 people.
Well, I can
and then
say
those 5 to ask 5. Now, and what then happens is you now begin to see how it multiplies. Try to make it as narrow as possible and as simple as possible, because people just believe, well, I don't have any power. I can't do this here. I'm not known. I don't have a big name. I said, I guarantee you there are 5 people who you know,
Absolutely.
who you talk to in text on a regular basis, who you can talk to.
And let me tell you something. Last night was a powerhouse. The moderator for the program was Delegate Cliff Hayes, and they had Omega Psi-Phi had the 93rd convention here in Norfolk last night. And there were 500 brothers and sisters of D9. And before they left there, we had them all saying, don't guess, vote yes. And we asked each one of them to go out and find every able-bodied person who's registered that they know, get them to the polls early because we want to be able to bank those votes. And then whatever is left, go back and scrape them all up and take them to the polls on the 21st. Virginia is in a very pivotal position. The eyes of this nation is on us. We got to shine. So what we going to do? Don't get, vote yes.
Well, Senator Kaine mentioned 4 ways to vote. And as you were walking through, you said every registered voter. Again, when you have electoral power, there are other states where they have same-day voter registration.
Exactly.
And that's another example of when you have the power, how you can actually make it easier for people to vote.
Exactly.
And that's one of those examples. But that can't happen unless you have the legislative authority to be able to do so.
That is exactly right. And I think Senator Locke and everybody who's spoken already has told you about all of the ways that we have been able to vote, be able to provide for our voters to be able to get to the polls. I mean, and there's so much good stuff on the ballot this year. We've got those constitutional amendments. Look, if ever there was a time for people to feel energized, now is that time. And, you know, look, sitting between 2 of my former governors, they always said, and especially when it was their time to run, that this is the most critical election of our lifetime. Of course, it's always the most critical time when it's their election. But this is perhaps the most critical time in our lifetimes for us to go to the polls and vote, because you need to be voting as if your lives depend on it, because in some cases, it really is. You know, I'm sitting here now as a mother, as a grandmother, and as a great-grandmother. And I tell you what, I'm going to have these boots on the ground.
Last question I have for you, and that is, how many times have your staff tried to take your phone away from you?
My daughter, Lisa Lucas-Burke, who's running for city council again, has my phone in her hand right now.
That's your I'm mad as a motother.
That's her. That's the mad as a motherfucker daughter.
Yeah. I played that.
Sorry,
I played that clip on the show. And I cut it off. She didn't. You see, y'all didn't see that. See, she said the whole thing, but gotcha. I play that clip now. I'll play that clip on the show.
There she is.
Right there.
That's her.
Because she's like, I'm mad as I was like, go ahead and just show out.
And you ask her, where'd you learn how to talk like that? She said, my mama.
I said it earlier in terms of other legislators want to have that courage. What do you say to a legislator in Virginia, in other states, who's afraid to lead as hardcore as you are, who say, well, that's really not my style, we shouldn't do that, when the reality is the public, when I travel this country, when I see young voters loving them, Auntie Maxine, loving them when they see fighters. I mean, Congressman Al Green, he goes places and the folks are like, man, I'm sure glad you're shaking that cane, because we're in a moment where voters say, I want to see somebody who's swinging on our behalf.
That is exactly right. And I can tell you, I think that is in large part the reason why I get invited to so many forums, to so many rallies. And I can tell you, I talked about the Omegas for last night, but I was invited to speak to the Young Dems at their convention this year. I'm old enough to be their great-grandmother, some of them. They love me because they said, we like it when somebody fight. We know you're fighting for it. That's how Cameron got elected. Knocking on doors, and people know that they're going to have somebody who's going to be speaking the language that they know, speaking on the issues that are important to them. That's what matters. Do we still knock doors? You bet your sweet bippy we do.
Well, I've never been scared to swing, so that's what I do on the show as well. And so I like it when I see folk who are willing to fight because in the times that we are in, we literally, when you say it's life and death, when you talk about rural hospitals shutting down.
That's correct.
That's actually real. Bishop Barber told me several years ago, he was it was a parade in North Carolina. He said a redneck came up to him with a Confederate flag draped around his neck, and he said, he had tears in his eyes. He said, Bishop, I don't agree with you on a whole lot. He said, but I appreciate y'all fighting for our rural hospital. Because the first person that died in North Carolina after the hospitals got shut down was a white woman in a rural town, and she had to go 65 miles and didn't make it.
That's awful.
And so when we say these things, it's life and death. It literally is when 30,000 people in this country die of hunger every year, but you want to cut SNAP benefits. When you talk about hospitals, when you talk about the increasing number of young people who are getting cancer, so if you're trying to end the Affordable Care Act and they can stay on their parents' health care till 25, that's impacting that. And so it's not a throwaway phrase when we say it's life and death. It truly, truly is.
Life and death. And, I just want to say one more thing before I would give you back the mic, and that is we have members of the legislature who will not vote to make sure that a family has a decent meal to put on the table, but will vote to give folks in the biggest industries in the nation, like data centers, to give them untold exemptions on taxes. Here in Virginia, we are subsidizing the data centers by $1.9 billion. And then you got some folks who don't want to put food on the table of a family who can't afford it. You know that minimum wage bill, Senate Bill number 1, that was my bill. Still not enough.
Well, I'm sure you are going to keep fighting as long as there's breath in your body.
10 toes down.
I am not going to call Senator Warner up. We're going to take a break. And then we're going to come back. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, the Black Star Network, live from Norfolk State University. Back in a moment.
MAGA Republicans ended diversity programs, cut funding for black students, and fired federal employees. And they won't stop there. Now, they've redrawn congressional maps so that they can rig the November elections. But we have the power to stop them. By voting yes for fair elections, we have the final say on who represents us in Congress. This is a temporary measure to restore fairness. They are not backing down, and neither can we. Make a plan to vote by April 21st and vote yes for fair elections.
Hey, I'm Malcolm Lee, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
town hall here at Norfolk State University. We're walking you through this referendum, this redistricting election here in Virginia that takes place on April 21st. Early voting is happening right now. And not just simply saying vote yes, but walking you through the implications of what happens when you have power, how you use it, how you can be impacted by what's happening in the state, but also what's happening in this country. Our next guest knows this well, spent time as governor in this state, from Virginia. Put your hands together for Senator Mark Warner. All right, then. I did not.
Hold it. I just want to make clear that I think this was an act of complete discrimination against the old white guy to put me after Louise Lucas.
All right, so
you could have brought Bobby up. You could have brought Dawn up. No,
okay,
let's see if we can draw a bigger contrast.
No, but here's the deal, though. Here's the deal, though. An Oreo cookie, if it doesn't have the white cream, it's just a chocolate cookie. So I need the Oreo cookie and the white cream to make an Oreo cookie.
Who are you going to put
and
on?
Dunk it in milk.
Who are you going to put on the other side of me then?
It's going to be the other side's going to be Don Scott. So I'm going to have. See, I got that chocolate, that white cream, and then I got that chocolate.
Well,
and then unfortunately I ain't got nobody left white, so I can't dip it in milk. So it's gonna be so Bobby Scott's gonna be the chocolate milk. We gonna dip it in.
Although I've been working with, knowing, a lot of times agreeing, sometimes fighting with Louise Lucas for 36 years. And Virginia's a better place because of Louise Lucas. She's also somebody you do not want to piss off.
That's why I like her. Public policy. It's amazing the number of people who say to me, man, I don't understand any of that stuff. I don't understand how a bill happened. I really believe, granted, it will never happen with this crazy, deranged FCC commissioner chair that we have right now, but we absolutely got to have Schoolhouse Rock 2.0. Because it's so many people, they have no clue what a city council does versus a school board versus a county commission versus a state legislator versus members of Congress. And so explain to folk, really, when you're talking about moving legislation in the Senate, how with this election, how that changes, because most people don't even realize anything that deals with money in Congress, the Constitution requires it to start in the House.
Except for the fact that was still when we had rule of law.
Mm-hmm.
That was when we had a president of the United States that actually believed in the Constitution. And all of that's up for grabs right now. Roland, we're seeing stuff in this country that I never thought I'd see. We talked last night about how, in many ways, America has only at least even started towards the path of having an inclusive country over the last 65 years. It's not been forever, until the mid-'60s. This was aspirational, but because a Congress passed laws from voting rights to civil rights to fair housing, and we thought that this was kind of not going to be reversed. So you don't need to follow all the things. You just need to look at the fact that you've got this attempt to rewrite and whitewash history. You've got the idea that we are going to suddenly not tell the whole American story, but tell a part of the story that, for folks that look like me, we're seeing this take place. This is one of the biggest military communities in America. And the military for so many years was that path, even though it was only 1947 when even the military was integrated, that merit was rewarded. And we now are seeing through a guy who is frankly an embarrassment to all of us, and Pete Hegseth, who is trying single-handedly to undo merit-based advancement. Look at the fact that he took out a black chairman of the Joint Chiefs. He took out other black generals. Just recently, he has taken out 4 officers, all either black or women. So the idea that you're going to take away the meritocracy, that the military, for all its flaws, that's life and death for people. And then if you get to the point, which we've not really touched on yet, people in this community gave blood, sweat, tears, and lives to have the right to vote. Do not pretend for a moment that this so-called, which we stopped, Save America Act, and Bobby will speak to it as well, this wasn't about voter ID. This was about trying to disenfranchise people. So the idea would be, and get this executive order that Trump luckily won't go through, but put out the other day, said he wanted the voter files from every state to go in and get scrubbed. It gets scrubbed. Guess who's getting scrubbed off the list? And if we don't stop that, and this is the thing, I see that. I see the corruption of our intelligence community. I was chair of the Intel Committee. I'm vice chair now. I see you taking away meritocracy from our military. If you take away people's right to vote, if you will see, and I am up to my eyeballs on this one, this president, I believe, and his, or at least people in his administration, are going to try to interfere in our elections this year. Because if we don't turn out and vote in major ways, so there is no question about what the people of Virginia, where they stand, and we have one corrupted election, I don't know if we ever go back. And if we don't, even if we win, if we don't win and then make sure we have a House of Representatives where Bobby Scott will return as chair of the Education and Labor Committee. And you went through last night the number of CBC members that will become chairs, including, by the way, Speaker Scott. We might soon have the first black Speaker of the House in America if we do our job. But if we don't pick up and even out the unfairness that's going on, could you think of a worse outcome for our country? And I guess, again, I know that I've gotten criticism sometimes. I keep trying to be bipartisan and all this stuff. But there is no Republican Party anymore. There is only a group of sycophants to Donald Trump. So to echo what my friend Tim Kaine said, I won't use it in Latin, until there's a Republican Party, enough with bipartisanship, and Louise, let's kick their ass. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Louise, how do you like that? How do you like that?
Seems like you've been having some chocolate chip cookies.
Not my first rodeo.
When you talk about how these things have changed, you take the Voting Rights Act. That was a time when that was a unanimous vote. That was a time where overwhelming number of Republicans voted for it. And now all of a sudden, the effort to actually get rid of it. And that's the thing I think people have to understand, what has changed and how this has changed. You're not dealing with the old Republican Party. I thought that was a mistake of Hillary Clinton in 2016 and Joe Biden in 2020 when they kept saying that the old Republican Party is going to return back. No, that ain't happening. MAGA, Tea Party, that is today's Republican Party. What we are seeing, look, my book over there calls White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. And the reason that photo in that book, it's the outstretched hands of a white man in front of the Capitol on January 6th. And what that says is all of this is ours. When Donald Trump complained about the election, he specifically mentioned, and we saw the seizing and ballots in Fulton County, black. He complained about Philadelphia, black. He complained about Milwaukee, black. He complained about Detroit, black. The head of the Michigan Republican Party, I remember in 2020 said, let's count all the ballots in Michigan except Detroit. Trump paid for a partial recount in Wisconsin. It was only for Milwaukee. And so the attack is specifically on black voters. And this is why, and again, when I look at the targeted seats, they targeted 5 black seats. This Louisiana versus Calais decision could wipe out upwards of potentially 20 CBC seats. And so this is why I'm trying to get people to understand, when you lose that type of power, you're losing the ability, because that Calais decision is going to impact states as well. So what Senator Lucas just laid out, you will be losing folks with power on the state level, county level, city level, school board level. This thing is vertical and horizontal, and this is what happens when people don't show up to vote when they get to be in power.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that, again, Louise mentioned this, but the fact that the one thing I was kind of offended at, Louise, you mentioned a black Speaker of the House. You mentioned a black chairman of the Appropriations Committee. You mentioned a black chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. I would have thought you would have had the respect to mention a black chair of the Democratic caucus in the Senate who's sitting right next to you. Pardon me?
But y'all forget, she didn't mention it. But the point there, that doesn't happen without the Voting Rights Act.
And remember, for so many years, the Voting Rights Act renewal was kind of a no-brainer. It was only in the last 20 years when they went after Section 2, they've gone after all of the enforcement.
No, Section 2, Section 4,
right.
All of that, because the 2008 election is really what set everything off. That was the first time in American history that a higher percentage of black people voted than white Americans. And when Chief Justice John Roberts said, we look at the turnout, so we don't need this anymore. No, fool. That's why there was such a turnout, because you had pre-clearance. You had those different things. And so that's the case. And so one of the reasons why we could not get the John Lewis bill was passed in the House, couldn't get it through the Senate. And again, that's where having the power then determines the ability to be able to get those things passed. What do you say, final comment, what do you say to the person, again, who's watching, listening, or who knows someone who says, man, I hear this, but I'm sorry, none of this stuff really has an impact on my life?
What I'd say is we're sitting in one of the great universities, not only in Virginia and in America, a great HBCU. You want funding completely cut off to HBCUs? Don't vote. You want to say you want to decide to vote, maybe not this year, but I'm going to wait a year or two. Well, you allow these voter files to get screened, you may not be on that voter file. You want to have an opportunity where in this country we actually make sure the military is meritocracy-based, and that actually as everybody in this country ought to get a fair shot and access to capital. We talked last night about community development financial institutions, CDFIs. Not a big thing, but it's a way to get access to capital to underserved communities. Gone if we don't vote.
That was billions of dollars.
Billions of dollars. So whether it is about your own life, whether it's about that great desire we all have as Americans to get rich, you want all these things taken away, that is all up for grabs right now. So as you've all said, we didn't do this. Well, Louise did some of behind closed doors. But at the end of the day, she doesn't decide. I don't decide. You decide. You decide. And if it doesn't work out, then we know where we got to look in the mirror. Because if we turn out, we will win this thing. And then we will take that 10-1. And we will need to have a senior United States Senator carry that ticket at a margin bigger than last year. So those marginal seats we can pick up on. Just trying to do my job.
Listen, at the end of the day, I always say this here. People love to complain, love to say what we need, what we don't have. And my position always is vote or shut the hell up. Simple as that. Senator Mark Warner, I appreciate it. Good luck in re-election. Good luck in re-election. He's got lots more to do. We're going to come back, talk to House Speaker Don Scott. Back in a moment.
Virginia, we are counting on you. Republicans want to steal enough seats in Congress to rig the next election and wield unchecked power for 2 more years. But you can stop them by voting yes by April 21st. Help put our elections back on a level playing field and let voters decide, not politicians. This is the responsible thing to do. Help us chart a better path forward, Virginia. Vote yes by April 21st.
Hey, I'm T.D. Jakes, and you are watching the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to Norfolk State University. We have been having a great conversation. Do me a favor, let folks know if they're not here. Of course, obviously, we stream this. We're streaming on our YouTube channel, our Black Star Network app, also our Facebook page. And when this is over, as soon as this is over, it immediately saves. You should share this. You should be texting this out for the folks because, again, the great information and insights that are happening here, you're not hearing elsewhere. And so that's why it's critically important. That's why we're glad to be here to share this information. Coming up right now, folks, someone who is really taking this state by storm. Y'all had to have a Texan come in and handle some business. What? Look, hey, that's where you're from. I ain't hating, I'm stating. Or as we say, don't hate, congratulate. I might let you celebrate. He's a product of that little blue and white Sterling High School. Graduate of Texas A&M University. He plays the mighty Pi O chapter, Pi Omicron, at Texas A&M, same as I did. Put y'all hands together for the first black Speaker of the House in Virginia, Don Scott. So first of all, y'all, he decided to get dressed up for y'all. Wore some tennis shoes last night to Virginia State. Didn't have no tie on. What happened? You had a fundraiser before you came here?
I got to switch up on you because, you get out of pocket. You know what I'm saying? So what he didn't tell y'all about the little school in 3rd Ward that he went to, he followed behind me.
Did you say Lil?
He followed behind me and went to Texas A&M University.
Because your ass older than me.
Let me finish. I'm charter line of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Pi Omicron chapter. What line you on, 4-5?
Because you're older.
Yeah, so I started this thing. All I'm trying to say is pay respect. You're supposed to respect your elders. Pay respect where respect is due. You had to learn my name when you pledged. You had to know my name and my line number when you pledged.
Let me explain something to you.
This family business, y'all. This family business.
Let me explain something to you. You were on line number 1. My brother was on line number 3. I came in line number 5, but we came in accomplished.
When they came in, it was soft by then.
No, you know. I just want to let y'all know this ain't gonna last long.
This ain't gonna last. We done. I'm gonna let him get the last word.
He can't say this
he's
here.
He's younger than me. I'm gonna let him get the last word. I'm not gonna respond.
See, let me explain to y'all what happens. Normally when somebody pledges, don't nobody know them. They're trying to find their way. Stuff like that. Number 1 on my line was the first black drum major in Texas A&M history. Number 2 was the president of the Black Accountant Association. I was joining the national board, the first student rep of the National Association of Black Journalists. Number 4 was a starting point guard of the basketball team. Number 5 was the vice president of student government. Like I said, we were the shit coming in.
I'm gonna give him the last word. I'm gonna let him have that. And
you know, I love when it's I'm gonna let you have. He's like, damn, I can't count on nothing.
I'm gonna let him have that word.
I can't count on nothing he just said.
Well, I am the first black speaker of the House in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
There you go. See?
And I am from Texas, y'all, but I got here as fast as I could. I got here as fast as I could.
When we talk about elections matter, every vote matters. In 2023, when Dems won the House, but actually we'll go before that. I use the example all the time of the election in this state where it was tied, and a name was pulled out of a hat that decided that election. I speak all the time, and I tell people that really happened. And not only did that determine that race, that determined which party controlled the entire chamber. That's a perfect example of how every vote matters.
Yeah, it was in 2017. Shelley Simons, who's now a delegate now, she lost by 0 votes. Have you ever heard of somebody losing by 0 votes? It was an exact tie, and they had to pull the name of a film canister because that's what the code called for at the time. And because she lost the draw, the Virginia House of Delegates went to the Republicans in 2017, and they continued to control the House of Delegates for another 2 years, where they had already controlled it for 18 years straight. And when I came in 2019, that was the first time in 20 years. 20 years. Think about the harms that they had caused for 20 straight years that the Republicans had controlled the House of Delegates. So in this moment, in this time, what a privilege it is to be in a position to fight back the way we are right now. We are in a position to fight back.
Senator Locke, again, Senator Locke mentioned this in terms of one of the constitutional amendments. The law in this state was how voting rights were restored for formerly incarcerated. The governor had to do that for you.
Governor had to do that for me. I would not be here. That's why voting matters. And I want to thank Senator Locke, who picked up the mantle from Yvonne Miller. Y'all know that name? And continued to carry the mantle to pass this year because elections are that important. I don't have to go. If we do our job in November, nobody will have to serve their time, do their time, pay their debt to society, and come back and beg somebody to have their rights restored. If we pass the restoration of rights this year, anybody that finishes their time will come home and be able to vote immediately. That is Mamie Locke's bill. And so it is so important that we have folks who understand our communities, that come from our communities, that know they have been blocking that. They've been blocking that since 1902. When they put it in the Constitution to make sure that they may prevent votes. So this is an opportunity, I believe, for folks. You would be shocked to know, black and white, how many folks come to me saying, hey, what do I need to do to get my rights restored? Something happened, can I vote? Nobody should have to go through that. Now, a Republican restored my rights, so it's their fault I'm here. Hello.
But I want to, I want to back up on some of that, because first of all, what you said was passed in 1902. It was specifically passed to keep black people from voting.
Oh, they literally said
the language was, this will keep the niggas from voting. So that's a quote. Two, right? Say it publicly.
Carter Carter Glass. Matter of fact, Glass High School in Lynchburg is named after him. He was a delegate at the time. He went on to become a United States Senator. Y'all heard of the Glass-Steagall Act? That's him. So, I mean, they were very explicit in their motives. And to this day, we are still fighting that back. But, man, we've come back with some power. We have come back with power and knowledge to be able to go out and win and fight these elections. As Senator Warner said, I know I look good for my age, but I was born in 1965. The same year that John Lewis crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge for voting rights. And on March 7th, he did that. I was born on March 5th. So in our lifetime, y'all, these fights are still happening. I'm only 61 years old. That's how long that we have. We only passed the Voting Rights Act that year in August of 65. So we're talking about in our lifetime we're still having these fights, and folks are trying to take us backward.
Right.
And we know MAGA is trying. We don't have to guess. On Easter Sunday, the Bible says out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. On Easter Sunday, that man got up in his heart and rose up and said, on Easter Sunday, he got up and said some crazy language and about some war and some. This is what they're thinking. We don't have to guess. Shame on us if we don't come out like now and really vote like we got a crazy person in the White House. And, you know, Roland, the man fired a black chaplain last week because he was black. A chaplain who was a general. We already know what's going on. And so those who are of goodwill, both black, white, Latino, whatever, this is the time to stand up and vote and let your voice be heard. What kind of America do you want to leave for your children? So all of us, I don't want my daughter to have the fight that I'm having right now. So what kind of inheritance do you want to leave? This is a time I'm so grateful to be in this fight right now. So my daughter don't have to be in this fight. We can fight this fight right now because our forebears fought. So we would not have to. So there will be more fights, but we'll have the power to fight them. And right now y'all look good. Y'all look good. Everybody look full. Everybody look good. Y'all doing well. Well, we need to make sure that the next generation is doing as well as we are right now. So we have to fight.
I am a stickler for a process and how these things happen. So you talked about the constitutional amendment to restore voting rights. But again, per your own laws, that had to be passed in consecutive sessions. Again,
with an intervening election.
So if you don't have the power over a period of time, that doesn't happen.
Won't happen.
And so again, and a lot of times folks say, man, why do you go so deep? I said, because you have to understand, this is not a microwave situation. You could have passed it one time, but if you don't have the power in the second time, you can't pass it again.
Start over again. You start
and
over
so the clock restarts.
And they have done it. I mean, I'm looking at these ladies, man. Y'all got to give it up for Senator Mamie Locke and Senator Louise Lucas. They have been. I don't think folks appreciate how long they have been in this fight. Senator Locke was a Hampton mayor. She's the mayor of the city of Hampton. She's been in this fight a long time. Senator Lucas was a city councilman when she started in Portsmouth. They have been engaged in these fights. So if you are in these fights, y'all, you can't be no come by night and I'm coming and I'm in and out and all flimsy. If you're going to be in these fights, you have to be in these fights for the long run so you can see it through to the very end. And so when you decide to be in these fights, no matter what role you play, because all of us don't have to be elected to make a difference. My mother told me a long time ago, you don't need to have a fancy title to make a difference. You know, you don't need to be a big shot to make a difference. Wherever you are, you plant your seed right there. Nurture that seed, water that seed, and that thing will grow. And I'm telling that to each and every one. This is the time for all of us. Roland said, get 5, and then you get 5. We need to win this yes campaign so big. They need to be shocked. I'm going to have to say this because this is unfiltered. We just kicked their ass in 2025, okay? In 2025, the days before the election, they say, oh, y'all going to barely win. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tight. We had a 51-49 majority in 2023. We went from a 51-49 majority to a 64-36 majority. Don't tell me what we can't do when we put our minds to it. This is what we can do this time as well. It is a reason that they are spending so much energy sending those fake mailers that Senator Locke was talking about. It is a reason that they're spending so much time trying to confuse this particular community. Why this particular community? We should be thoughtful and think about that's how much power we have. Because we not only influence our community, we influence the world. The whole world wants our swag. The whole world wants what we have. So now when we get out there and we start influencing and start talking and start voting, everybody's attracted to us. So this is not the time to hide your light on the bushel barrel. You better let your light shine. Let your light shine right now in this moment, in this time.
This, again, voting is happening now for April 21st. The other constitutional amendments, that's in November. And again, what happens in this state can very well completely change the political direction of this country come November. Because whoever wins in November, which party wins in November, now controls the House for 2027, 2028, which then positions for the election year. And here's the greater thing, which is one of the reasons why Donald Trump is desperate for this to fail, and for the Republicans to control the House. Because per the Constitution, the 2028 presidential election is certified in the House. In case of any irregularity,
Any confusion.
any irregularity or confusion, the House can decide who wins. We have to understand there was a contested election in 1876, and the deal was cut, which is the Great Compromise of 1877.
So Reconstruction.
The Democrats said, all right, Hayes, we'll let Hayes be president, Republican, but the deal that we want is y'all need to remove the last 3 U.S. troops, federal troops, from the last 3 to the state houses. They said, we're going to leave the dark kids alone. That's literally what they said. And once the Republicans agreed to that, because then those were radical Republicans who were anti-slavery, those Southern Democrats took control, and that led to 92 years of Jim Crow. So, again, they are sitting here thinking whoever wins the House in November will be controlling the House in 2028. That's who certifies the election in 2028. That's why they want this to fail in Virginia.
Well, what he didn't count on, he did not expect to see Louise Lucas and Mamie, Locke and Don Scott here in the Commonwealth of Virginia with a plan to push back. Now, I was minding my business, y'all. I'm in Boston minding my business. I flick on the TV in between ESPN, and I look, and there's Louise Lucas and Mamie Locke on the TV. Yeah, we going to do something in Virginia. I'm like, ho, lady.
You like, hold on, y'all in the Senate.
It's August of 25. We in the House, all 100 seats on the ballot. They in the Senate. They ain't on no ballot. What y'all doing? Y'all speaking in my business. So I called Louise. I said, Senator Lucas, I know she down. We got to do something, Don. I said, Senator, can we just hold off for a little bit? Let me see where we are in this election, because I'm looking real good right now. She said, I'm going to hold off a little bit. She kept it to herself. I know it hurt her to her heart, but she kept it. She helped it. She held it down. And then when the time came, we made the move. We did what we had to do. And right now, you got Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and all of Donald Trump's flunkies losing their mind, flocking to Virginia right now, trying to trick people like the people in this room right now. Because they never saw back in 1902 when they changed the Constitution. They didn't see us coming, y'all. But guess what? God did.
I'm just gonna let him go ahead and preach that. So go ahead and take your collection up as soon as you've done that. Put y'all hands together, y'all, for Virginia Speaker of the House, Don Scott.
Y'all better vote yes. Boy,
this is like a law firm. This is Scott and Scott. So come onto the stage right now. Put y'all hands together for longtime congressman here in Virginia, my alpha brother, Congressman Bobby Scott. All right. Congressman Scott, good to see you. I've been talking a lot about what happens when you have power, so I'm just going to tell y'all. So when Democrats control the House under Biden-Harris, bills are being passed, and funding was happening, especially the education. And there were a lot of lies being told. I'll never forget Newsweek put out this story, Biden cut HBC funding by $35 billion. It was a lie. And I called several activists who put that on their Instagram page. I said, take that crap down right now. And I spent time on the show trying to explain to people what actually happening. And it was Congressman Clyburn and Scott who sent me, and Congressman Scott, who sent me the Excel spreadsheet showing every school how much they got and everything. So I called the congressman. I said, look, we need to have you come on the show. He's like, look, I would love to come on the show. He said, but I ain't trying, people know what I'm doing. So I'm going to keep trying to spend this money as fast as I can while we got it. And then I'll come on later. And it was, and people, and there were a lot of people who were like, well, I don't understand why they ain't saying anything. And I said, because when you were making power moves, you don't always have to shout from the rooftops. So Congressman, for people who don't get it, even that was when you were in the majority, but even in the minority, Explain to people the role, because it drives me crazy. People say, man, the CBC, they ain't doing nothing. They don't understand how the process works, how you can have one word change in a bill that completely alters the whole deal. Talk about that.
Well, you talked about HBCU funding. I was chair of the committee the last 2 years of Trump, first 2 years of Biden. COVID was alive and well, and Rahm Emanuel, former congressman, former mayor of Chicago, said that a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. We didn't let that crisis of COVID go to waste, and we took advantage of it. And like you said, I didn't want to be bragging about it because we're getting so much money for HBCUs. All the other groups says, where's my money? Well, I couldn't, I'm focusing on HBCUs. And so when people said we weren't doing anything, well, then we had to say, well, okay, we got for Norfolk State over and above what they would have gotten ordinarily. They got, during that period, an extra $100 million.
No. Norfolk State got $102,526,938. I told y'all I had the spreadsheet. Don't leave on the extra 2.5 million, Congressman.
Well, go back, go get Hampton too, because they got over $100 million. Hold
on, I got it. Hold on, I'm looking at Hampton right here. Hampton got $112,242,256.81.
Now that's over and above what they would have gotten ordinarily. And so, like I said, we didn't want to be bragging about it because everybody else would be looking, well, where's my money? But after they said that we weren't doing anything, we had to explain. And that's what you can do in the majority. There's a lot that's been said tonight. And one of the things is that we are doing exactly what they had been doing. They stole 3 seats in North Carolina, used those 3 seats, as Tim Kaine pointed out, just enough so that they could pass that big, ugly bill, take away your health care, SNAP benefits, to give tax cuts to the rich.
Because right now they have a what, 1-seat majority?
No,
1 or 2?
It's 220 to 215. But if we had those 3 seats back, we'd have 218 that have 217.
There you go.
We'd be in the majority. They never could have passed that big, ugly bill, run up all the debt, tax cuts for the wealthy, but take away people's health care and SNAP benefits. ICE couldn't be going around killing people without asking questions. We couldn't be in a war without a declaration of war. They couldn't be dismantling the Department of Education without answering some questions. There's been a lot of stuff we could do if the Democrats were in the majority, but they stole that majority. And so the question becomes, how do you respond? Do you just ignore it and hope it goes away? Well, okay, that's what we did last time. We ignored it, hoped it went away, and the next thing we know, Trump's saying, find me 5 more seats. Because they know we're going to do okay on this midterms, but he's stealing 5 seats, and then a seat you outlined them, Missouri, back to North Carolina, pick up another seat. They're waiting for the voting rights case, and if they win that case, they're going into Louisiana, Alabama, and Florida. We can ignore it, hope it goes away, or we can respond and let them know that if they try this again, this is what's going to happen. And so that's what we're doing. Exactly what they're doing. We're just responding in kind. Now, this isn't just little tit-for-tat partisan stuff. As I said, this is policy. The fact is that these people aren't going to change their minds on health care. They're against health care. And every time health care comes up, they're going to vote no. They're going to try to dismantle the Affordable Care Act. They're going to try to cut back on Medicaid so they can have tax cuts to the wealthy. That's just what they do. Voting rights. They will pass any kind of voter suppression law that somebody puts in front of them. They will not pass any advancement of voting rights. That's just who they are. So when you have an election, you're essentially casting votes on voting rights, education, health care, and a lot of other things. And so when they start stealing 5 seats, that's 5 more seats for the SAVE Act, the voter suppression bill, and 5 less seats against it. When they talk about health care, dismantling the Affordable Care Act, Tim Kaine pointed out that it was saved by 1 vote in the Senate, and everybody will remember that iconic thumbs down in the middle of the night. Thank you, John McCain. Otherwise, they would have repealed the Affordable Care Act. They want to pick up 5 more seats and hope we don't respond. 5 more seats, then more, then more, then more. So the only rational thing to do is to respond in kind. If they're going to steal seats in North Carolina, in Texas, Missouri, and everywhere else, then we've got to get the seats back in California and Virginia. And as it's been pointed out, the only difference is they do it behind closed doors. We let, in California and Virginia, the voters have the last say.
And one of the things that I keep saying, again, 2 seats in Texas, 2 black seats lost. Seat in Florida, lost. Cleaver's seat in Missouri, Kansas City, lost. Don Davis, North Carolina, that's 5. That's 5 black members of Congress that they're actually targeting. And what I'm trying to explain to people is if this passes in Virginia, folks vote yes in Virginia, then all of a sudden, how does this shift? It's not a question of the power shift to Democrats in November, after November. It also, how does black political power shift? And so, for people who do not understand how it works, explain to them the difference if you are the chair of a committee versus the ranking member, or the chair of a subcommittee versus you're in the minority as a ranking member.
Well, like I said, I got all that money when I was chair. I haven't been able to get anything when they are chair and making the decisions. And so basically, you are casting votes. If you like voter suppression, give them 5 more votes to pass the SAVE Act. If you like cuts in health care, give them 5 more votes to cut health care. All we're asking is, if you like health care and you don't want them to cut it, get 4 of those votes back right here in Virginia. They're not going to change their minds. They are who they are. And so if we can get those votes will be cast. And in Virginia, 5 Virginia Republicans voted in favor of the SAVE Act. They voted in favor of cuts in health care. And what we are doing is just making sure that we have a credible chance in saving health care, defeating the SAVE Act, supporting education, fighting a war legally with a declaration. Actually, we won't fight the war if they have to declare, because it won't pass. That's what all we're doing is fighting fire with fire. And the last thing we want to do is sit back like chumps and let them take all these seats and pass all the bills that they want.
And that's the difference between the House and the Senate. You can't gerrymander in the Senate. Every state gets 2. It doesn't even matter. And that's also why I've been making it clear how folks should be voting there. The reality is Ossoff has to get reelected in Georgia. Roy Cooper is running in North Carolina. We'll see who wins the primary in Maine. You've got a race in Alaska. You've got Iowa. You've got the race in Texas. If all of a sudden, Ohio as well with Sherrod Brown, if depending upon how folks mobilize and organize in Florida, again, you can be a difference there. And
I've seen some polls that show South Carolina may be in play.
And so I am constantly trying to explain to people that one of the reasons, especially African Americans, one of the reasons why you see a lot of these elections turning the way they are, because we're not maximizing our power. And for me, 70% should be the floor. I don't get excited when they say, man, 58% black turnout. It actually pisses me off. And there are some other places where it's 30, 32, 34. So if we drive our turnout, again, other folk do what they do. If we drive our turnout and we are at a minimum of 70%, we sweep elections across the South.
The NAACP has frequently said, when we vote, we win.
Yeah, that's not a phrase. That's real. And the data is actually there. And the result, and the people have to understand why we're seeing the attacks. North Carolina, perfect example. Obama wins North Carolina by 14,100 votes in 2008. There are 100 counties in North Carolina. So if you look at the precinct, you're talking 2 to 3 votes per precinct in that state. That's how he wins. After that, that's when North Carolina Republicans said, oh, no, we got to go after black votes. And to the point where a federal court said they had a laser-like precision in the targeting of black voters. They were asking, actually, in emails, give me the data on when black people are voting. And when they saw the percentage voting in the first week of early voting, that's when they whacked early voting. And the federal courts busted them. But they were able to make the changes because they had the power.
They went after black votes. The appellate court said that they went after black votes with, quote, surgical precision. That's, I mean, and this is what the voting rights case when Justice Roberts said that, you know, we don't need the voting rights anymore. He knew. He served in the Justice Department. And the afternoon of that decision, he heard officials in North Carolina and Texas say, oh, good, now that we don't have free clearance, we can pass these laws. A statement that would make no sense if those laws would be pre-cleared.
That's why Florida right now, Florida is waiting for the Louisiana versus Calais decision because DeSantis has said the moment that decision comes down, they're going to rewrite the rules in Florida to also steal more seats.
And Alabama and Louisiana will be right behind them.
So, again, this election here has national implications.
And if you have a voting rights bill that comes up, what happens in Virginia will help determine what the vote on the floor of the House would be, because you can count on all of the Republicans voting in favor of voter suppression against any voting rights bill, and Democrats all voting in favor of voting rights and against voter suppression. So what we are doing now will help determine the vote in the direction of voting rights in the United States.
And again, if folk vote yes come April 21st, then come January of 2027, when we introduce him, it won't just be Congressman Bobby Scott, it will be Chairman Bobby Scott. Fred, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Don't guess, vote yes.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
So, folks, we've had 2 days of great conversations, but now it's incumbent upon regular, ordinary, everyday folk to do their job. And what that means is not just you saying, well, I've already voted. It also means grabbing yard signs. That means you getting those door knockers. That means you calling your friends, calling your neighbors. Legislators have already done their part. First of all, you elected them to lead for a reason. They've done their part by putting this on the ballot. Now it actually goes to the people. And again, when we vote, we win. We've seen that. We've seen what happens when we turn out. And I often say to people that the election is the end of one process and it's the beginning of another. You say you want to elect someone to make changes, but then you have to put pressure on them to actually do what they claim they were going to do when they were actually running. Well, this is a perfect example. And this is, again, where our folk can actually be a huge difference maker. When we drive numbers, all of a sudden, they get scared to death. And when you look at the numbers, when you look at this state, if you talk about 20% of this state, the issue is not 20, 25, 30%. The issue is what is the percentage of the people that actually turn out? And that's the difference right there. And so even if you don't live in Virginia and you know folk who live in Virginia, you should be calling them, asking them, hey, what's going on? Are you voting in that special election? Have you already voted? And if they say, I haven't, you can also be educating them. And so I say this constantly. If one person says, I'm going to reach 5, then you ask them, I need you to do the exact same thing, then this thing begins to build. We love to talk about the Black freedom movement, also the Civil Rights movement. We love to talk about what happened in Danville, or what happened in Selma, what happened in Montgomery, what happened in Richmond, what happened in Albany, what happened in these places. But I got to remind folk all the time, to Don's point, the folk who were leading that were not big names. These were not folks who were all preachers. They were not CEOs. The people who put in the work were nameless, faceless. In Selma, they called them the foot soldiers. These were the people who worked and who cleaned other folks' houses and washed their laundry and who opened doors and who drove cars. What those folks understood, they understood that they can actually change the future direction of their children by what they do. Take it back even further. If you look at the end of slavery, and you saw Reconstruction, you saw African Americans elected to public office all across the South. The reason there is taxpayer-funded education today is because it was black people who were the folks who were in slavery. The moment they were elected in South Carolina, they put it in the state constitution that guaranteed public education because they knew the power of education. That's what happens when you win. They begin to change the laws. They begin to make life better. And in fact, when those black legislators begin to change the laws in South Carolina and Mississippi and Georgia and North Carolina, they actually improve the life of poor whites in those particular states. And so what we have to understand is when Dr. King said, be true with what you put on paper, it has been black folk in America that's actually made America realize more of its America than they have. It has been black folks who said, you put it on paper, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, so we're going to hold you to account for what y'all put on paper because it was never intended for the benefit of us. And so here's a moment in 2026 where this generation must be using its power. And I've always said in 30, 40 years, it will be a shame in black America when we have Black History Month programs. First of all, you may not have those because they're trying to get rid of those now. When you have MLK programs, it's a shame that in 30 years we will be talking about what they did in the 50s and 60s. It'll be a shame that in 2056 they'll be talking about, well, this is what Congressman Ralph Metcalf did, and this is what Diggs did, and this is what Conyers did, and this is what Chisholm did, or Barbara Jordan. It'll be a shame if we're talking about what A. Philip Randolph did, or Roy Wilkins, or Roy Foreman, and all the leaders. It'd be a shame if we're talking about what they did in the late 1800s and 1900s and 1950s and 60s. What should happen in 30 years is when they have programs in Virginia and across the country, they're saying this is what Don Scott did and Louise Lucas did, and this is what these senators did. This is what Bobby Scott did. And they should be saying that this is what our mothers and fathers and grandparents did. The only way we can ensure there's a future for our people, our children, nieces and nephews and sons and daughters and children yet born, if this generation decides to say we are not going to be silent and quiet in the face of massive oppression. They want to institute Jim Crow 2.0. We can say Jim Crow 1.0 was enough, and there's no way in hell on our watch we're going to let that happen. And so that's why you must vote yes. That's what you must encourage everyone to vote yes. And again, if there's somebody who in your life and they complain and they always talking about what needs to happen and what should happen, and then if they don't vote, and I ran against one of these brothers when I was in Birmingham 3 weeks ago who was complaining about stuff, and he said, well, I don't really vote. I said, well, I need you to shut the hell up then. I said, I'm not going to listen to you talk about what we need to happen. I said, when you can't even get your ass up to actually go vote. And I literally said to him, this conversation ends right now. And then he eventually left, and I'm like, good, because I was not about to have that conversation. But that's really where we have to be to begin to change what is happening in this state. and in this country. Let me thank Norfolk State for allowing us to be here. Let me thank Virginia State yesterday. Let me thank all of y'all for coming as well. Don't forget, support the work that we do. I'm being straight up. There's no other black-owned media company in the country that does what we do, taking the show on the road, coming to places like this, being able to have these conversations. We just got our second vehicle because we know we're going to be traveling around the country. We know come the fall, we plan on being in Ohio, being in Georgia, in North Carolina, being in Florida. Talking about what's going on, because the other thing is here. The nation's first black newspaper was Freedom's Journal. In March 16, 1827, in their lead editorial, in the third paragraph said, "We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us." I'm not interested in waiting for ABC and NBC and CBS and for CNN and MS Now and Fox to decide something. I just saw 2 African Americans on CNN no longer with the company. The sister Janae Norman let go at Good Morning America and ABC. And so, again, those are places where they are deciding who gets hired, who gets fired. The reality is, and I said it earlier, and I wasn't joking, I don't have a boss because I own it. And when you own it, you control it. And when you own and control, then you get to decide where we go, what we talk about, how long we talk about it. But it also requires our people to also financially support what we do. The right wing, literally, they have billionaires who are funding Tucker Carlson and the Daily Wire, and they're funding all of their media outlets. That's how they're able to reach millions. We started this show in our network on September 4th, 2018, with one sponsor, the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, and self-funding with my own money with $350,000. Our fan base, we've now had 38,000 people who supported our show since we launched. They donated more than $5 million. So the show has survived and thrived because folks have sent $1, $5, $10, $25, $50. And so that's how we do this. And so we're going to keep doing the work. And I also told our fans, listen, it's not going to be like PBS. I'm not going to send you hats and mugs and tote bags, because swag costs money, postage costs money. So when you give, it goes back into the show. And I've had people already hitting me saying, oh, my God, this show looks great. I love the lighting. I love the cameras. Well, guess what? All that cost. The staff cost. We came here, y'all. We have 9 people who are here putting this production on. So your support is also critically important. So please, if you want to join our Bring the Funk fan club, do so. Cash App, utilize the Stripe QR code you see it on the screen. That's for credit cards as well. Checks in money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037 0196. Of course, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, as well as Samsung Smart TV. A lot of y'all have been hitting me up. Y'all want to get our shirts and hats and stuff. You see the zip-up that I'm wearing. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com to get all of our gear. And we've got more than 50 black-owned businesses that are on shopblackstarnetwork.com. We created a black online mall because these black-owned businesses, they can't afford lots of marketing, and so there are products that are there, and you name it, we got it. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com to check it out. Don't forget, every day at noon Eastern, to watch Brittany Noble, the Breakdown with Brittany Noble show at noon Eastern on the Black Star Network. Download the app fan base, black-owned app fan base. Isaac Hayes III created that. So we've been supporting that. Follow me at Roland S. Martin on that as well. And on Monday, I'll be live from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. My man Darius Rucker of Hootie and the Blowfish. They have their golf tournament. I'll be supporting Darius, and I'll be broadcasting live from Myrtle Beach on Monday. Folks, that's it. I'll see y'all next week. Norfolk State, we appreciate it. Y'all be sure to vote yes. Holla!